everyone. I'm Matt Clark, research analyst with Money Markets, here with your weekly marijuana market update. Again, before I start, make sure you're heading over to moneymarkets.com. Sign up for our free daily e-letter from Sunday to Saturday. You get a free e-letter sent to your email that contains safe, sound, smart, simple, profitable investment information from myself, from Charles Sizemore, from Adam Odell, and our entire team. We all work very hard to make sure we get that information to you very timely. So go to moneymarkets.com and get signed up for that free daily email to get that investment information in your inbox for free each and every day. Also, make sure you do subscribe to our YouTube channel. You get notified each and every time we post a new video. We've got a lot of great things coming up on YouTube, so make sure you do that. Just click down below if you found us and not subscribed. Make sure you click that subscribe button, and you'll see a wealth of information on our YouTube channel. Now I'm going to get on with today's podcast because I do have a lot to cover. I'm going to talk about a few things today. First, I'm going to update some marijuana legalization news here in the U.S. I'm going to respond to a viewer who asked about OTC stocks, which I got a lot of help from you guys, and I appreciate that. And then I'm going to respond to another viewer regarding recent news on one of our cannabis watch list stocks. But I'm going to start with legalization. Now, big news late last week. A couple of members of the U.S. House of Representatives introduced a bill to legalize marijuana on the federal level. Kind of. I mean, it's basically legalization. And so we have Representatives David Joyce of Ohio and Representative Don Young of Alaska that filed a bill that would essentially remove marijuana from the Controlled Substances Act. It would also give banking protections to the industry and give access to all military veterans for state legal marijuana programs and to expand research. So this is kind of an interesting thing. What's more of note is that it was actually introduced by two Republicans. Now, I studied government, used to cover politics, things like that. I don't want to get political or anything like that, but it is interesting because it has been typically Republicans who have been a little bit hesitant about legalization of cannabis in the U.S. But here we have two Republicans who are part of a special caucus in the House related to cannabis who have introduced this bill. Now, you remember the House voted to pass the Marijuana Opportunity Reinvestment and Expungement Act in December, the MORE Act. But the new Congress has been seated since then, and it basically means that Congress has to start the process all over again. When you have a new Congress that comes in, any bills that were under the old Congress have got to basically start the process all over again. So that's where we are. The House already passed cannabis banking reform in January with the new Congress, and this new bill from Joyce and Young is just another piece of the puzzle. Now, also remember, there is a reform bill supposedly being worked on in the Senate, but there's been no movement or news on that of late. There was a lot of talk a couple months ago with Senators Chuck Schumer, Senator Cory Booker of New Jersey, about this meeting of the minds coming together and putting together this bill. So far, not so much. Nothing has really happened. So this is really the first effort in terms of Congress to try to put together some legislation to legalize marijuana on the federal level. And a bill like Joyce and Young's would go a long way to legalizing marijuana, but some advocates are a little concerned, and their concern is that the bill really doesn't contain any social justice reforms like expungement. I use social justice because those are those terms, not ones I necessarily agree or disagree with, but those are the terms used by advocates. Now, the news of this latest federal effort prompted me to look at how states are moving forward with legalization. Now, I've got a map I'm going to show you here. You can see where adult use marijuana usage is legal. South Dakota, still a question mark. The state's Supreme Court recently heard arguments challenging voters' approval of adult use back in November. Governor Kristi Noem filed a lawsuit, or had someone else file a lawsuit against the actual ballot question that was approved by South Dakota voters, rather. And now that has made its way to the South Dakota Supreme Court. Still no, they heard arguments a couple weeks ago, but no exact date on when they will render a decision on the constitutionality. If the justices uphold the constitutionality, then adult use marijuana will become legal in South Dakota. If not, then there could be a reversal decision to send it back to the state courts. There could be other direction implied. It's hard to say at this point. Other states have been relatively proactive, however, in addressing cannabis. I'm going to go state by state and let you know kind of what I've learned so far. In Alabama, the state House and Senate passed legalizing non-smokable medical cannabis earlier this month. In Connecticut, there's a House bill that would allow home cultivation and establish a state cannabis control commission. The bill was advanced out of one committee in March. There's a Senate bill to legalize cannabis use that was filed in February and introduced to a committee, but no action has been taken on the Senate bill. and the House bill is moving out to the full floor, as I understand it. In Delaware, there's a House bill that would legalize cannabis use, and it was introduced in March, but there's been no updates that I could find on that bill that has been provided. Again, if any of these states that I mentioned, maybe there's some updates you can provide, please do so. Email me at feedback@moneymarkets.com or comment down below on our YouTube channel. Here in Florida, there's been bipartisan bills, interesting enough, for the Florida legislature to legalize adult use cannabis. Medical cannabis is legal here in the Sunshine State, but adult use is not. The bills were introduced. I think a Democrat introduced one in the House, and a Republican senator introduced one in the Senate. These are back in January. So far, nothing has been done regarding either of those bills. In Georgia, the governor signed into law legalization of medical cannabis use in February, and I think there's 30 licenses they will be giving out initially in Georgia. I believe I have that right. In Hawaii, the state Senate passed a bill to legalize adult use cannabis and raise possession limits to decriminalize it. The Senate passed the measure in March. It now will head to the Hawaiian House and see where it goes from there. In Idaho, the Secretary of State in Idaho approved an initiative to legalize medical marijuana to make it a ballot question. The Secretary of State basically has to approve the ballot question to allow groups to go and collect signatures. That has been done. And if enough signatures are collected, the measure would then be placed on the next ballot that it's eligible for. That could be November of 2022 or November of 2021, depending on how quickly they certify and all this, that, and the other, how quickly they can get everything done. Likely 2022, but could be 2021. That's in Idaho. In Iowa, a Senate bill was introduced in February to legalize cannabis for persons 21 and older. Nothing's been done yet. In Kansas, which is my home state, I live in Florida, I am from Kansas, a bill cleared the House in May to establish a medical cannabis agency within the state's Department of Health and Environment. That bill now goes to the Senate. In Kentucky, 2 House bills were filed to legalize medical use and adult use. Neither bill has advanced to a committee. In Louisiana, a bill to remove jail time and limit fines for possession passed the state House in May. There's a bill to legalize recreational marijuana, and it cleared a House committee and moved to the floor in late April, but still no vote has been taken on that I could find. In Maryland, legalization bills were filed in both the House and the Senate in February. No action on either one of those bills as of yet. In Minnesota, the House recently just passed a measure to legalize adult use cannabis. They did that just last week. In Nebraska, this is a bicameral legislature, which means there's really no party affiliation. A state senator proposed a constitutional amendment to legalize adult use cannabis, and a bill to actually legalize medical marijuana advanced to the full floor of the Senate, but stalled due to a filibuster. So it was basically killed because people spoke too long and it ran out of time. And now there's that bill is dead. So right now there's a constitutional amendment question that the state Senate could be looking at some point in the near future. In Nebraska, in North Dakota, there's a House bill to legalize adult use. It passed the House on February 23rd. The Secretary of State in that state also approved a signature gathering on a constitutional amendment to legalize that could be on the November 2022 ballot in North Dakota. In North Carolina, several bills have been introduced in North Carolina to legalize medical and adult use cannabis in the state. So far, really nothing has been done with them, but there are about 3 that I could see that I could find that have been filed. In Pennsylvania, there's a bill in the Senate that would legalize adult use and also expunge it. As far as criminally, this bill was introduced in February. So far, no action. In Pennsylvania. In Rhode Island, a Senate bill would allow adult use sales in the state by 2022. Again, nothing has happened with it so far. South Carolina, there's a House and Senate bill. They're competing bills. Sometimes they do this where a House member will submit a bill, a Senate member will submit the same bill, and it kind of is in hopes of both bills can be fast-tracked and without amendments can be passed fairly quickly. This is what's happened in South Carolina. The bill would allow medical use in the state. It was filed back in January, and so far the South Carolina legislature has not really made any action on it. In Tennessee, bills filed to decriminalize cannabis and legalize medical use. No action so far. In Texas, the Texas House has approved a pair of bills, one that would decriminalize cannabis and one that would approve raising THC limits on medical cannabis. Those have both passed the House, but have not passed through the Senate. In Wisconsin, the budget proposed by Governor Tony Evers did include the legalization of cannabis use, interestingly enough, but so far the legislature there will be taking up that budget, and we'll see what happens at the end of it. No bills have been filed in Wisconsin, but the budget proposal does include it. In Wyoming, a House bill to legalize cannabis was advanced out of committee, but it missed a deadline to be considered by the full House. It advanced out of the committee in mid-March. and then it was not considered by the full floor until after a deadline had been reached. There's another bill that was filed in the House to legalize medical marijuana, and so far it has not been advanced anywhere. Now, all these bills basically have a long way to go before they become law, but it does seem that states are moving much faster at legalizing either medical or adult use cannabis than the federal government is, for some reason, and I'm not really sure why that is, but that's basically the landscape right now. Now, to move on to the next point, the last week I asked you all a question that I received from Robert. He said he had 5 brokerage accounts, but couldn't really buy any cannabis over-the-counter stocks and was wondering what brokerages would allow that. So I reached out to our viewers, to you, to ask that question, and you guys came through like gangbusters, and I love that. I thank you for your response through our channel, also through email. Damon on YouTube said JP Morgan offers almost all of the pot stocks, including the ETFs. He says he owns Planet 13, GRAMF, and all the U.S. pot stocks, so he said to check there. Carol emailed me at feedback@moneymarkets.com and said, I can buy OTC stocks from Fidelity and Charles Schwab. I've had no problem. Schwab has the ability to buy from other markets like Taiwan, as they have a foreign exchange. Finally, Craig commented on YouTube, TD Ameritrade allows OTC purchases, but they do charge $6.95 and only purchase as a limit and not on market price. So, Robert, I hope that answers your question. I would add to make sure that you do your research on all these brokerages that have been mentioned to make the right decision for you. Not all brokerages are the same. They don't all work the same. They don't all do orders the same. So make sure you do your research on all these and any other brokerages you might look at before you make a decision. I don't endorse any one in particular. I want you to just use your judgment and decide what might work best for you. Now, I want to talk about some news surrounding one of our Money and Markets cannabis watch list stocks. David emailed me. He said he had a question about High Tide, HITIF, and its stock consolidation. He said, I believe there's something that has to be done so that it can list on the stock exchange, but I'm not exactly sure how this works and how it might affect the stock price. Can you explain how this works? I will certainly do my best. Now, first, I recommended High Tide for our cannabis watch list back in March. Now, I did this with the understanding that the Canadian company was aggressively pursuing a listing on the NASDAQ. On May 12th, the company announced it was undertaking a 15-to-1 share consolidation, meaning that for every 15 shares of High Tide that you own, you would get 1 new share. The simple reason for this is because major stock exchanges have share price requirements. Your price has to be a certain level related to volume of shares and things like that. And before that consolidation, High Tide was trading at around 60 cents per share on the over-the-counter market, which is well below the NASDAQ requirement. This is why they're listed over the counter, because the stock price doesn't meet that threshold. Now, if you owned High Tide stock before the consolidation, nothing really changed for you except for the number of shares you own. For every 15 you owned before, you now own 1. As for the price, the consolidated price was around $9 per share, which is 15 shares times about 60 cents per share, comes out to $9. The other thing you might notice is the OTC ticker did change. It went from HITIF to HITID. Why that was done, I really don't know. I'm not sure if that was an over-the-counter pink sheet rule or how that works. I'm not really sure. After the consolidation, there was a slight drop in price to around about $8 a share, but it has started to rebound. We were down nearly 20% on High Tide, but now we're only off by 1.9%. So the consolidation has actually done wonders for our position the consolidation has done nicely. So on a side note, I will add that High Tide, as of today, I record this on Tuesday, was recently added to the Cannabis ETF, which trades on the New York Stock Exchange under THCX. The exchange-traded fund invests in stocks of companies operating across legal cannabis-based pharmaceutical and consumer wellness sectors. It was formed in 2019, tracks the Innovation Labs Cannabis Index. There's about 33 stocks that make up that ETF, and now High Tide is one of those. So you're seeing more and more news about High Tide coming out because of their upcoming placement on the NASDAQ, which, by the way, they're hoping to start listing on the NASDAQ later this month under the ticker HITI. And I will keep you updated in terms of how that goes. So a lot of good news for one of our positions. I think this is going to be a big boom for them. They're going to open up the floodgates in terms of shares. I think you're going to see share price go up. So if you're in, you you took my recommendation off from our watch list, then congrats. I think you're going to see some gains coming up in the near future. Now, I've had other questions about stocks and to evaluate, and I'm going to address those in coming updates, so make sure you stay tuned. If you do have a cannabis stock you'd like me to look at, or a sector question, things like that, email me, feedback@moneymarkets.com. We'll drop that email address right down there. Coming up this week, we've got more. We've got the Bull and the Bear podcast, and much, much more. Don't forget to check out our Ask Adam Anything video series, where I get to sit down with Chief Investment Strategist Adam O'Dell and ask him any question you pose. It could be about the market, it could be about the sector, it could be about life, it could be about his office decor. If you don't know what I'm talking about, check out his Ask Adam Anything video series down below. Now, Green Zone Fortunes co-editor Charles Sizemore also has a weekly series called Investing with Charles Sizemore. He breaks down stocks each week, gives you his take. He's got a great perspective on stocks, really takes a nice macro look at things, and something you don't want to miss. Also, check that on our YouTube channel. And go to moneymarkets.com each and every day for content that provides safe, sound, smart, simple, profitable investment information for you. Sign up for our free daily e-letter and get that email sent to you every day for free. I'm Matt Clark, research analyst for Money Markets, host of the Bull and the Bear podcast, and your marijuana market update. Until next time, everyone, safe trading.